Here are your Court News Ohio top stories in 5 minutes. A stepfather in Hamilton County argued to the Ohio Supreme Court that he doesn't have to obtain consent from the father of his wife's child to pursue an adoption because the father, who was in prison, didn't support the child. A state law mandates parental consent for adoptions, but creates an exception if a parent has failed without justifiable cause to provide for the maintenance and support of the child as required by law or judicial decree in the year before the adoption filing. But a juvenile court determined the father did not have to pay child support. The probate and appeals court each ruled the father had justifiable cause not to support the child. The father claims he was just following the court decision. A number of organizations, including the Department of Defense, have labeled it as the world's largest growing crime.
We're building digital tools to fight human trafficking.
And every day it finds its way into Ohio's courts.
What I didn't realize was that her trafficker was right there in the audience.
Human trafficking is modern-day slavery, where predators use force, fraud, or coercion to prey on vulnerable people and funnel them into the commercial sex industry.
He had a gun and he pointed it at me and he was like, "You need to do what I say." He was like, "I will kill you."
Since a presidential proclamation in 2010, January has been designated as National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month.
When the police bring me these search warrants, it's from every part of our town, every part of our city, any place where there's a hotel and a highway, you're going to find people being taken advantage of.
That decree came in part because of misconceptions about the epidemic in Ohio and nationwide.
Most people think it's something to do with foreign-born, isolated, small number of people, like the movie Taken. In reality, 85% of the victims are local American girls.
One reason local communities still can't comprehend just how close they are to that kind of captivity is the darkness that consumes its victims. Along with being too afraid to talk, many are ashamed of the complicated attachments to those who led them to drugs and prostitution.
My husband was my trafficker.
Human rights organizations estimated a 13% jump in victims from 2016 to 2017, with the number of people exploited in the U.S. in the hundreds of thousands.
The average age of their first rape was 8.5 years old. And that changes a person significantly.
Franklin County Municipal Court Judge Paul Herbert runs one of 4 human trafficking specialized dockets certified by the Ohio Supreme Court. He says that kind of trauma leaves children vulnerable to the lures of traffickers. A study states the average age girls are forced into prostitution is 13.
That could be your daughter or your mother. And I never thought it would be me. It takes the people you love and turns them into people that you don't know.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. The Honorable Supreme Court of Ohio is now in open session pursuant to adjournment.
A new year and a new court is in session, literally. Joining newly elected appellate court judge Melody Stewart on the Supreme Court bench is former trial court judge Michael Donnelly.
Justice Donnelly, welcome.
After serving the Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court for 14 years, Justice Donnelly felt he needed to be a part of the bigger picture.
I can work with my fellow justices, all the stakeholders in the system, and work on policies that will help make our justice system better, that the justice system is working the way it's supposed to be and is transparent and as efficient as it should be.
As the first trial court judge elected to the court since Justice Sharon Kennedy in 2012, Justice Donnelly is getting used to a new workflow.
It's like going from an emergency room where everything's coming at you, and then you have a lot of work at the appellate level where you have to be very disciplined.
The dialogue is also different.
So it would be reasonable from the defendant's perspective to think that was on the table.
Instead of just talking to attorneys,
were you put on notice during these negotiations as to what position the state was going to take at sentencing?
Now he's sharing opinions on cases with his peers.
Just to listen to my other colleagues who may have other points of view and listen to their arguments and let them resonate. I think I'm going to relish the time you have to think deeply about important issues that affect Ohioans.
And that's a look at Court News Ohio's top stories. Visit courtnewsohio.gov for the latest headlines on Ohio's courts. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter.